Hey friends, welcome back. So, I just checked my upgrades, there's nothing new here. Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna make rounds on the ship. Talk to everyone. Then, I'm gonna go talk to Liara. I don't know if she has anything new to say, but I'm just gonna basically go to Shadow Broker, and in roleplay, she'll be visiting with Liara and probably having sex. And, and then, like, in actual gameplay, I'm gonna see, unless I really don't want to when I start reading them for some reason, like I did that last time, a good few episodes ago now, when we finished earlier the Shadow Broker. I want to go through all the dossiers of everyone we've got, except for Miranda's, which we read. And I think we also read, Jack's too, and I'll probably try to read the rest of them. Anywho, Frienderinos. That's what we're doing this episode, and if that doesn't really take very long, then I'm gonna go and... because like people might not have things to say. I don't remember how much more dialogue everyone's gonna have. Regardless, that doesn't take very long. What I'll probably end up doing is the next mission, although that might drag this one out pretty long, but we'll see what happens. Hello, Martin.
Shepard, how can I help?
Have you got a minute to talk?
Actually,
there we go. Beautiful.
Medical
oh, wait.
matters.
I think our...
Aware that
yeah,
there's
going to probably be a lot of this.
Different species react differently to stress. Aware you come by a great deal. Have had other species become attracted to me before. Awkward. Not interested.
It's very interesting how he thinks she'd be... how he was thinking this is a possibility. I find that very interesting. That, like, frankly, she's probably more familiar with her crew than a lot of other commanders would be. However, I find it very interesting that he... well, it's probably because she's female? Actually, no. Does male Shepard get this conversation too? Let me know, friends. Because I have no fucking idea. Because I don't play male Shepard. But this is just a very interesting... but yeah, she's not interested. She's just going to go ahead and lay that bare too, since he's being so blunt. And she gets why he's being cautious about this. And, well, she's only interested in Liara anymore anyway. And, females... so, yeah. Or, sorry, because that's kind of different than females in the human sense, Or in this game, the most other species sense. Anyway.
I don't feel that way about you either, Morden. But thank you for bringing it up.
Good. Appreciate clarification. Cross-species body language. Awkward.
Yeah.
Movements of your lower eyelids suggestive by Solarian standards.
Interesting.
Glad you stopped by. Cleared the air.
Indeed. Yeah. Very awkward, but interesting how that's a renegade option. Why the fuck's that a renegade option? But there we go. That awkwardness is cleared up now. Does he have anything else to say? I want to end this on a non-awkward note, if possible.
Have you got a minute to talk?
Yes.
Oh, perfect. You know what? I think everyone's going to have a lot to say, so this might be a long one. Because I haven't done this in a while. I just don't remember how many it is.
University. Following in my footsteps.
Awesome.
Had to lie about what I was doing. Think he was suspicious.
Oofity.
Doesn't matter. Still good to hear his voice.
It's cool to hear about Morden's family, because he normally only talks about his research, and he's also talked about his past before, but I don't think he's talked about his family before in any of the prior conversations I've had with him, at least in this game, in this particular playthrough.
Does anyone in your family know about what you really did for the government?
No, I'm lying, but won't pry. Solarians curious as a people, but also have social cues. Keep two types of secrets from family.
Interesting.
First type, personal or guilt-based, invite suspicion, exploration, puzzle to be solved, reward for curiosity, intelligence, drama. Other secrets, more serious. Dangerous if discovered. Signals discourage curiosity for protection of family.
And that's why that, like, they're not... The second type is the type that... It's interesting how Solarians can tell that much. Because I don't think humans can really tell that much. If what he's saying is true, they can discern the type of secret the other person's keeping from them. That's amazing. Just from social cues. That's very interesting. I don't think that's a human thing. I think it has to do with Solarian brains and Solarian awareness in general, because they must function differently on a very fundamental neural level than us. I think that's what this conversation is trying to get across. Very interesting.
Why wouldn't everyone give clues that their secrets were too dangerous to be uncovered?
Not conscious, social, reflexive body language. You can't fake it.
Yep, makes
Example,
sense. Yeah.
Yawning, perceived as contagious among humans. Subject observes yawn, sensory input deactivates left periamygdalar region, subject yawns in response. Social empathy. Also works with dogs. Solarian faking signals to discourage curiosity, similar to human faking a yawn. Can try, but effectiveness limited.
Very interesting. See, and I didn't actually, once again, there's a lot of times where the summaries just don't seem to match up with the actual lines that are being said. So I would much rather have a system where, and still a lot of RPGs do this to this day, I would still rather have a system where the full line is displayed, even if the person just repeats it back. Like Geralt from Witcher. Witcher 1 had that exact system. You saw exactly what Geralt was going to say. I think that's how it worked. Anyway, I don't remember. I also feel like the later games had more condensed ones, but don't quote me on that. But yeah, Mass Effect is pretty infamous for this issue, where you'll pick something in the tone of it, and what exactly Shepard's meaning by that wasn't really what you interpreted from that little short summary phrase. And that's kind of an issue, because an entire human sentence is a lot more likely to contain a lot more nuance than a small little segment would, and that's probably why, no matter what they wrote, people, for these little, for these options, it probably would turn out the same way, with a lot of people having issues. So I think that, honestly, a lot of people not really realizing what they're making Shepard say until she or he says it. So I think, honestly, in that light, this kind of a system just needs to be replaced with one that's more clear about what they're saying. Which I know takes up a lot more text, and they wanted to probably keep things moving. But I'm not the kind of gamer that is all too about reading. I mean, I'm a writer, and considering how much I talk and how much I want to dissect things in this game, I clearly love my details in games. So, just interesting little tidbits of thought there.
Are you calling him because you're worried we won't make it back?
No, aware survival unlikely, but actually contacted him for family connection. Hard to imagine galaxy. Too many people, faceless, statistics easy to depersonalize. Good when doing unpleasant work. For this fight, want personal connection. Can't anthropomorphize galaxy, but can think of favorite nephew. Fighting for him.
Very interesting how he thinks about this. Also, I just love hearing about, Morden being an uncle. I didn't know he had any kind of kid connection, because a lot of scientists are pretty infamous for not having children. He, from the tone of this conversation, it seems like he only has the nephew, or at least, other... He doesn't seem to have children of his own, though I don't know, or else he'd probably be talking about his kids instead of his nephew, but, yeah, so... he probably doesn't have any kids of his own, but that lines up with him being such a dedicated scientist. A lot of scientists are that way. Or they're complete, or, like in fiction, a lot of times either scientists don't have kids, or they have kids, but they're just, really disconnected from them, which is not good. So I think people like that shouldn't have kids. In this day and age, it's a lot easier to not have kids than to have kids, even if you don't use birth control. And yes, I'm pro-abortion. People can be angry at me for that all they want, but women should have a choice if they're gonna have a child or not, because that's a big fucking responsibility, and it's better to kill the baby before they can suffer for years and years of life. That's just my opinion. People can hate me for that, but I think that it's just cruel to decide that kids like that should grow up when they're just going to suffer and suffer and suffer. I don't know. Anyway.
Your nephew got tenure at 16? Is he a genius or a scientific prodigy?
No, wait. Don't want to insult him. Yes, but not in manner you meant. Remember, Solarian lives short, mature rapidly by your standards. Don't live much past 40.
I'm glad you got to talk to family before we finish this. And I'm glad we talked too, Morden.
Honored to be part of this, Shepard. Helped preserve Galaxy before with genophage. Dirty work. Ethically ambiguous. Problematic. Collector's mission simpler, cleaner. We'll be proud to see it in Morden's Solus biography vid. Unless we all die. Proud posthumously, in that case. Regardless. Thank you.
I love how pragmatic he is, but at the same time, it's clear that he has a heart of gold and definitely considers others, but is able to separate that very, very easily and be pragmatic regardless, but not pragmatic in a cold way, like Cerberus tends to be on a general scale. It's interesting because he probably developed his sheer pragmatism partly because of, well, he was chosen to work on the genophage. In fact, he mentioned earlier in that very conversation, or was it the one before? No, I think it was this conversation, but one of the two we just did with him. He mentioned that, by the way, I'm going to make sure there's not a third, but I have a feeling there isn't going to be a third. Don't quote me on that, but that sounded like a very final decision, as in, like, you know, the thing you say right before we're going to actually go on the mission. So I have a feeling there's not going to be any more, and it might be that everyone has 2 or more for me. I have no idea. We'll see. What was I going to say? Oh yeah, I was saying that he even said during his conversation that that, you know, that sort of being able to separate, you know, being able to depersonalize is really helpful for doing unpleasant work. He specifically said that. I think that part of why he ended up depersonalizing so much is just a general rule of being himself was because of the genophage, but I think in his situation that's a very, very, very helpful thing. Part of his personality. It probably is a huge part of why he's such a successful scientist as well.
Shepard, how can I help?
Anything else?
Have you got a minute to talk?
Having trouble working between your interruptions and Edie's insistence that insane experiments endanger entire crew. Hard to concentrate. Affecting morale. Anything else?
And also, he's very, very blunt. Between your interruptions and Edie's insistence and that. And I like that about him.
I'll let you work.
We'll be here if you need me.
See, what's funny is that he can say that stuff right off the bat. But it's clear that there's no real salt because he says, we'll be here if you need me. Now, granted, I know that in the game that's the default line. And that's the only line he's going to say, I think. But, you know, if this wasn't a game and that was just whatever he said at that point in time, I think that means, like in lore, that, you know, even if he'll say, between your interruptions and Edie, I don't think he holds any real grudging or animosity about that. And expressing it, you know, helps him to focus on what he needs, and also helps Shepard to be aware of what he needs, which right now, he needs her to leave him alone, so she's going to do that. And that's what bluntness does for people. And, you know, I have a few blunt friends who are self-conscious about being blunt. And I've seen this pattern over and over again with these kinds of people, where they'll start to be like, I'm sorry for being so blunt. And I'll be like, no, I like you being so blunt. Thank you for being so blunt. Because I'm on the autism spectrum. I need things to be clear or I don't fucking get it. Nuance often goes right the hell over my head. So I learned over you know, 26 now years of being alive as an autistic person that you need people to be blunt if you're someone like me. So I've just accepted the bluntness and I'm grateful for it because that means I can learn what to do right and how to do things right. So, you know. Anyway. Kelly, hello. Anything?
How may I help you, Commander?
Do you have a moment to talk?
I always have time for you,
Okay,
Commander.
generic talks, because she ended up shutting her down because of Liara. But don't worry, when we do another playthrough, maybe on stream, but I'll definitely end up recording it and putting it on the channel, we'll be doing all the sex possible in this game. It's gonna be fun, man. Like, I don't know how much the game actually limits you partner-wise, but I'm gonna see what I can do about that.
I better go.
I'm pretty sure in each game you're gonna
Maybe we'll talk
have to
later.
choose, but we'll see. Regardless, let's go up here and talk to Joker since we're here. Oh, there's Jacob, but I'll go back and talk to him in a bit here. I'll just go poke Joker for a bit here.
Commander,
I assume everything's going well up here?
good for now. Fractured my thumb
Ouch.
on the mute, but I think I made my point.
Big Dergy ouchel. Alright, so again, that's just generic, and
See you, Commander.
when we do the hey let's talk option and they just say something generic, either they'll immediately be like, shut dude. So yeah, I don't think there's anything new, and honestly, I don't really want to hear his thoughts about the crew. She doesn't really care what he thinks, and he's probably going to be rather cynical and rather judgmental, so she doesn't really want to hear that about her crew, frankly. She respects him for being able to say stuff like that, kind of similarly to how she respects Morden for that, but,
Thanks for diverting to the Gurns back, Shepard. I appreciate being able to clean up that mess. Maybe not the best way to learn about the relatives, but I'm glad it's done.
oof. Yeah, she's gonna check in on him because of that whole thing.
I'm interested in getting to know you better.
Already? I'm not big on forcing these talks, Shepard. Let's do this later.
Interesting. I think he has less talks throughout the game. Very, very interesting. She's fine with that.
We'll talk later.
Commander.
Interesting about that. I think that because I also shut him down, or that I didn't flirt with him, or whatever it is, I think that a lot of times it just ends if you're not romancing the person in these scenarios, which I'm not too fond of, but, there's a lot of NPCs in ME2. They had to do something to cut down the amount of dialogue they'd have to write with everything else they had to do for the game, if you think about it that way. But yeah, let's just make a clean run down the ship, talk to everyone, see if there's any new convos, and get them done, and afterward, go to the Shadow Broker lair and read at people's things, and that'll basically be everything I wanted to do with this playthrough, other than go through the Reaper IFF and the rest of the game. And any other side missions that we do along the way, but I'm pretty sure, I don't remember, but I'm pretty sure it's IFF, and then suicide mission, and then end of video game. Don't quote me, though.
Do you need something?
Have a few minutes to talk?
Certainly.
If you don't mind my saying, you don't really seem like an assassin.
You've spent too much time fighting thugs who think custom-painted armor makes them professionals.
Interesting.
I had trained my body for this role since I was 6 years old.
Very interesting. Yeah, I guess she hasn't really fought assassins like him before. And yeah, that's probably most of the people that get in her way. Probably. That aren't just mindless, brainless murder machine aliens, or Geth. Basically, it's probably, especially in this game, it's probably mostly, thugs, just like he said, and then collectors and Geth, and that's basically her main enemies in this entire game, specifically. In the first game, it was mostly Geth, and definitely some thugs, and such, and I'd say really that's mostly it. Anyway, and some aliens. Anyway, 6 years goddamn old, man.
You've been killing since you were 6?
No,
Of course not. I didn't make my first kill until I was 12.
makes sense.
They were training me. I was not to be used and thrown away. I was an investment.
Makes sense. Interesting.
You were a child, not an investment.
I've given you the wrong idea. They valued me, yes, as a resource, but also as a person. They regretted their need for me.
Interesting. Or maybe they just told him that. But it's Hanar we're talking about here. Hanar are very interesting creatures, and they think on a very different levels than most others. It's very clear to me, just from talking to every Hanar I've talked to, that that is the case. So it's pretty interesting to hear about Hanar having this kind of thing. They're normally rather peaceful. I mean, frankly, they aren't really suited for fighting in the way other creatures are. Because they're just jellyfish people who are probably literally very squishy, very easy to kill. So, at least I'd imagine they are. So, yeah. So it kind of makes sense that, but why did the Hanar think they needed him? I hope he gets to this. I hope this is what she means by asking this, though I don't know.
The Hanar? Excessively polite.
Yeah, exactly. This is exactly what I was talking
They
about.
don't seem the type who train assassins.
Every species trains assassins. The Hanar are only unusual in that they need other species to do the killing for them.
Makes
They have a
sense.
strong grip and natural toxins, but have you ever seen one move quickly outside of water? Or fire a gun?
I forgot about the natural toxins. That's an interesting... But, yeah, they're jellyfish people. Jellyfish in real life have natural toxins. That makes sense. Whew. But yeah, very good point. It makes sense that they train assassins if they felt they needed to kill anyone at all, as opposed to most other species.
Why did your parents agree to this?
The agreement was made under the Compact. It was an honor for our family.
The Compact?
We live on the Hanar homeworld because they rescued us, some of us, from extinction. We owe them our lives. That is the Compact.
But you don't kill for the Hanar anymore. You're freelance. What changed?
I was asleep for a long time, yes. I paid no attention to what my body was asked to do, but then... Laser dot trembles on the skull. One finger twitch. He dies. Then the smell of spice in the spring wind. Sunset-colored eyes defiant in the scope. The laser dances over. My apologies. Drell slip into memory so easily.
I love this part of Drell.
Was that one of your assassinations?
Yes. Perhaps we can discuss it later. I've wasted too much of your time.
Well, yeah, I think he's recounting about how he met his wife. Sunset-colored eyes defined in the scope. I love the imagery. I love the sheer poetic nature of these Drell flashbacks. I think that his dialogue is really exceptionally well written. It's interesting because I feel like the dialogue in this game fluctuates a bit. But if you're writing a lot of content, even if it's just one writer, though I know there are many, and in probably in most AAA RPGs like this, there's gonna be a team of writers, and there's probably a bunch of different writers writing a bunch of the different convos that happen, is what I'd imagine. So there's a fluctuation, and even if it's just one writer, though, I mean, quality of work fluctuates no matter who you are. It's part of being human. So, you know. But I just feel like whoever wrote Thane, and, you know, whatever, you know, mode they were in, they just did an excellent job writing Thane. I love his dialogue and his tragic backstory, and he's one of the most inspiring characters in this entire game and series to me. The reason I said and series is because he's also in 3, and he's even more inspiring in 3 to me, but we'll get there. Alright. Alright, Thinky Thonky Durgan. What else? Who else? Samara's on the other end, yes? Actually, wait, no, that's right. He was in there. The closest, is Kasumi, so let's pop in here and talk to her for a bit. I've investigated everything in these rooms, Dergy. You don't need to go activate everything, okay? Okay.
Hey, Shepard.
Hello, Kasumi.
Jacob deserves better than a father like that.
Yeah, I agree.
I probably would have wanted to shoot him too.
Yep.
I'm glad to hear Thane and his son are back in touch. It'll be hard, but I think they'll be fine.
Yeah. I love how she observes people, and she's clearly got a heart of gold. You know, she's a literal Robin Hood type, and I love how they represented a Robin Hood type in this game, and she's definitely very clearly her very own character with her own reasons for being Robin Hoody and her own everything. Like, if I activate that painting over there, she'll talk about the fact that she met this girl. She rescued this girl. Like, hold on, I'll just kind of, I don't remember the exact details. I'm just gonna.
That's my favorite piece, painted for me by a child prodigy from Elysium. She was the cutest thing. She was kidnapped by slavers who hoped to sell her on Omega. I wasn't about to let that happen. I set up an idea as a buyer's rep to get a special tour of the slaver's vessel. Once aboard, I freed the girl and smuggled her off the ship. She painted that for me on the way home. I'll never forget how it felt to watch her work.
What's amazing to me is that... Actually, wait, hold on. Let me just kind of re-verify the details here. Hold on. Actually, no, it doesn't look like I can activate it again. But I don't know if she was paid for this in any way, what shape or form. But she didn't seem to mention if she was or not. But even if she was paid for it, she went to all that trouble. Not to steal something like a lot of her other jobs were, but just to save a girl. That's her goal. She wasn't in there to get valuables. She was in there to save the girl. She used her skills as a thief for something other than thievery. Just for a good cause. I don't know if she was paid for it. I mean, for some reason I keep thinking she probably was, but... who knows, man? I mean, she probably was, or at least was offered, but I think at least partly she did it out of the goodness of her heart, It's very interesting. I love Kasumi, man.
The Normandy runs so quietly. I'm not used to hearing my footsteps when I walk. Come back later. I'm sure I'll have more to talk about.
Alrighty. Alright. Yeah, she spent a lot of time on space stations and stuff. And if you think about it, yeah, if you're not used to hearing your footsteps when you walk, it would make sense in a world like this that's extremely developed throughout the galaxy. There's so much tech and noise everywhere, and there's ships that run noisily. But the Normandy doesn't run very noisily. Like, you'll always hear some background humming in this. But it is very quiet, that's for sure. Anyway. And I do believe that, yep, there's Samara. I love her, man. Look at that. I love the glowy eyes. I'm just gonna screenshot this. Okay, I was too late.
I wanted to check in.
I am always happy to talk with you.
Huh? She's very... I really love her as a character. Again, her and Thane. This game has some really strong characters. I love the characters in this game specifically. ME1 had some good characterization, yes, but this game went above and beyond with characterization. Both for the returning characters, and I'd say especially for new characters like Thane and Samara and Jack and even Zaid and Kasumi, even though they were tacked on, side party members almost. They're done very, very well.
I'm interested in hearing more about Asari Justicars.
I like how she motions you to sit down with her.
We hold a unique place in Asari culture. Justicars are from another era. Young Asari grow up watching vids about our adventures. Pure fiction, of course. Some Asari are uncomfortable with us, but so few Justicars exist that most have never met one.
Very interesting. I'll go ahead and investigate, because normally how these work is this investigation option advances or becomes, goes away or becomes a different one whenever you choose this option here. So I'll go ahead and probably, just because I'm really in a character conversation and, sparking a conversation about the characters mode, that I'll just kind of go through a lot of this stuff here.
There are only a few Justicars?
Few Asari wish to make the sacrifices necessary to become one of us, and the training has a high casualty rate. It is a life of constant danger. Throughout the entire galaxy, there are only a handful of us at any time.
Well, no matter how terrible it sounds, she made it very clear that she chose this life and she's okay with it. So she's not gonna go down that conversation path. Sort of as a sign of respect, and also just it doesn't seem like a really fruitful path of conversation for her to go down.
This code of the Justicar seems central to your life.
It is 5,000 sutras and covers every
5,000.
situation one can encounter.
Jesus.
I have memorized every word. There is only the code.
The Asari I've spoken to seem conflicted about Justicars.
In this age, people see shades of gray everywhere. The code of the Justicar is black and white.
Interesting.
I might seem a hero to many, but I would kill all of them if I had to.
Very interesting. Yeah, see, it's interesting. It's very, very interesting. That, yeah, like, a lot of people, including myself, I believe that seeing more shades of gray and less black and white, like even in this era that's happening, there's more people that are less black and white about things. And I am one of those people, and I think that is where we need to go as a society, because thinking in black and white has caused so much suffering and war and all sorts of crap that didn't need to happen in the first place. So, yeah, I think the shades of gray are important, but, you know, there are parts of every culture that have very black and white ways of thinking, and Justicars are a very disciplined, you know, an old, order that, you know, that their thinking seems very similar to that of, you know, all sorts of religious orders here on Earth in the real world. So.
What role do you think Justicars have in Asari society?
I would say that the closest human equivalent is a knight-errant in your medieval lore. Perhaps mixed with a bit of samurai.
Very interesting. Which, again, older orders of warriors that... Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's probably a better way to think about them. They're similar to those, yeah. Older orders of warriors that, frankly, aren't a thing anymore in this modern era. It's very interesting how they probably took inspiration from those things. And that's probably why they had her mention them in this conversation, I would imagine, anyway. But yeah, she really is like the Asari version of a samurai. I don't really know what knights errant are. If you'd like to explain that in the comments, friends, I'd like to learn. But yeah, I know what samurai are about. And yeah, they went by a code of honor, you know, and they served specific people, and you know, and they were killers. So it makes a lot of sense. That's basically what Asari are, what Justicars are. It's very interesting. But what I find the most interesting is the fact that there seems to be contingency in the code for serving other people other than the code. Which I wonder why that's even allowed, and that's such a covered thing that she was able to make an oath. And it seems like the biotics allowed her to change her code there. Like, do Justicars basically become subconsciously tied to the code because of how much they study it? Is that biotics possibly overriding some subconscious thing so that she can, you know, without, you know, fighting, you know, the morals of the code, serve someone else for whatever reason? I find that very fascinating. I find a lot surrounding the Justicars very fascinating. I don't think it's explained as much as it could be. Now, maybe there's a codex thing about this. In fact, I might end up, like, for my next whole episode, just trying to speed through codex reading after codex reading, because I'm sure I've built up plenty, and will continue to build up plenty as I do these convos. Anyway, kind of interested about her knowledge of humans. And it seems like romance isn't a thing for her, and she's not going to sort of touch on that subject either, because she doesn't want to give her the wrong idea, because she's absolutely smitten with Liara, and she frankly thinks Samara is extremely attractive for a lot of reasons, but she's with Liara, and she has a feeling that Samara's code wouldn't allow it. She just has this inference and this idea that having such a conversation is probably uncomfortable for her, and probably just fruitless, and also probably will give her the wrong idea. Or at least that's how she's thinking about it. So she's not gonna talk about romance in the code. She's not gonna go into the killing yet, but she is curious about her knowledge in the humans. She'll probably go into the killing after that.
You know about knights errant and samurai?
When I knew I must leave Asari space again, I studied the history and morals of new species.
Makes
When
sense.
I was a maiden wandering the galaxy, humans had not yet arrived.
Interesting.
What did your studies tell you about us?
You are more individualistic than any other species I have encountered. If 3 humans are in a room, there will be 6 opinions. I like your species. I am curious to see what you will do.
If 3 humans are in a room, there will be 6 opinions. I'm trying to understand what that means. I'm thinking, I would think there would be 3 opinions. Meaning that both humans have 2 opinions. I'm very confused. If any of you know what she means by that, I would like to know, because I feel like that should be 3 opinions. This might just be going right over my head, because, like I said a little bit ago, autism. So if you'd like to explain that, friends, I'd like to sort of get the context there, because I don't. Very interesting. I like your speech and curious to see what you'll do. She really feels a lot of mutual respect with Samara. And the more she talks to her, she thinks Samara's just going to be kind of a nice moral compass and a nice kind of just someone to share a lot of mutual respect as warriors with, and as people who uphold their own honor, which her honor is the code. Ada's is more complicated than that, but it's essentially the good of all is what she wants to effect. Anywho,
What does your code say about killing?
I am compelled to kill the wicked. If a Justicar is involved, peaceful solutions are long past.
interesting.
You make killing sound so casual.
I remember each being I have slain. They are always in my thoughts.
Very interesting. And I'm sure that's part of the code as well, to remember who you have slain. And I'm sure Morinth is in her thoughts. There's no way she wouldn't be, even if all of them weren't. It's very interesting. It's very interesting. I bet a lot of her meditations are about those she has killed. She seems to think of herself as a weapon of justice, and not really her own being. In fact, she touched on how individualistic humans are, or that she perceives humans to be. Although I would say that there's a lot of very individualistic Asari, actually, and all other species as well. So I find that interesting. And I think it's because of I think that observation of hers probably came more than anything from the fact that Justicars are not individualistic. Justicars themselves are not individualistic. I'd also like to know what ended up how she ended up becoming a Justicar. What's the process for that? Like, is it sort of a from birth thing? Is it sort of a like, do they join the order because they want to be? I don't know. Like, what is it? And why are there so few of them? I don't remember if that's been touched on in prior conversations in this playthrough, or if that might be touched on later. But anywho, that seems to be the extent of this convo that Ada actually wants to kind of dig into it with. So we're gonna say goodbye to her.
I should go.
I'm glad we spoke.
I'm glad we spoke as well. I like her a lot. I really like her. And Ada respects the absolute crap out of her. Especially after the whole Mord thing and how maturely she dealt with that. By the way, friendos, let me check how much time we've been rolling here. Whoops. Yeah, 40 minutes. Okay, yeah, this is an episode. I often underestimate. Like, I had this feeling that there wouldn't be a bunch of convos to do, but yeah, there's a lot more dialogue in this game than I remember clearly. So yeah, we're going to be probably chunking away at these combos for maybe a few conversations at this rate, a few episodes at this rate. But yeah, for now I'll call it here. This is just a nice little talky section where I really like to dig heavy into this stuff. So, you know. So I did it. Anywho, friendos, I hope y'all have absolutely wonderful days, and I will talk to y'all in the next episode. See y'all.